Sorry, you saying the Labour Party is siding with China?
Unironically, yes. And we're going to go through it. So this is, of course, around the Labour conference, which I've been talking about an awful lot, and for good reason, because I think no one else goes into the depth that is needed to show what the lunatics they are, which is because it takes forever. So the first thing we're going to do here is compare it to the Tory conference, which is now going on, because I don't want to be partisan on this. You have the Tories here, and Darren Grimes making the point that the Labour Party is currently marching outside the Tory conference.
Yeah, but protesting doesn't achieve anything, so, you know.
But also the absurdity of being like, yes, we of Party B protest the existence of Party A.
Yeah.
The reverse never takes place.
Oh, I always hate this as well. You see, like, when, the Conservatives done this, we'll go to Labour. It's like, I actually don't need the Labour Party's opinion on this because it's always going to be Tories bad.
And there was no massive protest outside the Labour Party saying you shouldn't exist, whereas the reverse is taking
But just
place.
my party political opponent has decided that I'm in the wrong. Oh, my goodness, this is such a good faith criticism that I'm going to take to heart. Of course they're going to say that. They're going to say, well, he didn't do anything wrong, did he?
I'm shooketh.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Pointless.
Anyway, so we go on to the next one here. So this is apparently, as the Spectator point, an anti-Tory threat at conference.
That's so good.
So-
Right, for anyone who's watching, there's a banner. Remember, we only have to be lucky once, which is a massive threat from the Labour Party. Like, we just need one term in office and we can ruin this country.
I love how they're literally calling themselves insane there.
Yeah,
It's like,
like that's
you have to be lucky all the time.
such an admission.
I love it. We can't get away from them either. Even trying to look at the Tories for a minute.
Just British public, remember this. This is how they think of themselves.
Yeah. So not much has happened at Tory conference that I think is worth going over because Tories are just, when they do their conference, they're just boring. They just have
Well, they
ministers
all
give-
speak from exactly the same script because the Conservative Party is a well-oiled machine to keeping people in line.
ministers and things. But if anyone has anything interesting and you think I've looked over something, please do send it in. But we're going to go to some of the stuff and then we'll get into the Labour simping for the CCP. So if we go to the next one here, we have a guy who is apparently some Conservative mayor. If we can scroll up on this one, he decided he wouldn't attend a panel because it was all men.
I agree. I don't think anyone should attend these panels.
So it was a Conservative conference where he was going to give a speech and he was like, there's only men here. I'm leaving.
This is a Conservative?
This is a Conservative.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour Party and Comrade Burko are waiting for you, my friend. God.
Remember, Jonathan, the barbarians at the gates only have to be lucky once.
This is a reporter. The mayor's name is, if you can scroll up,
okay.
it's up there up somewhere. But it's not too important. It's just so cringe. It's just, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Conservative, man. Anyway, so we move on. If we get to the next one, this is making the point again. Darren Grimes has some speech here from some guy whose name I forget, who was just clapping and being like, yes, the Chancellor, a very good chap, indeed. And that's what I mean by boring speeches that are worthless to look at.
I hate this Build Back Better slogan.
As
It's like
well.
You've got Joe Biden's slogan in the background. Why?
It's also,
Why? Because you're the party of Davos. That's why.
like, even taking away all of that stuff, it's the worst slogan I can think of.
No, but but you can't take it away. It's like I don't want to. Who cares?
I know, but even in abstract, if they're like, oh, I don't buy into any of that, it's still terrible.
Yeah, but I don't believe you. Is the point. I think you're a controlled opposition, basically.
Anyway, so we'll get back to the Labour Party and they're simping for the CCP because I thought we'd enjoy this. So we go to the next one here. We've done day 3. Well, I did a compilation of day 3 there. That's the full one you can go check out on the second channel. But without further ado, we're going to start off with a little bit of a skip forward to day 4 because there was a really funny clip I had to put out. So we go to the next one and let's play this clip of a guy talking about the incel movement that is the Taliban.
In the last few weeks, we have seen the return of the Taliban to power in Afghanistan, freeing terrorists from prison. And another terrible example of the growing threat from online extremism in the form of the incel movement. Yet the government didn't even have a security minister in place for over a month.
That's not in bad faith either. You can go to the timestamp. It makes even less sense with more of the speech around it because it's about Afghanistan. So, I mean, unless he's just calling the Taliban incels to insult them, but okay.
I mean, I don't think they're going to care with all of their forced wives.
Yeah, I mean, technically it could be incels, though. They do have that policy of handing out wives, which is an incel policy, let's say.
I guess so.
A meme policy. But what's interesting is I assume he's trying to reference the Plymouth shooter. So if we go to this one, you can have the archive here from the Times, sorry. And it turns out that the guys investigating this, just out of interest, are not treating it as terrorism. So as a quote here, so AUKUS, an assistant chief constable speaking at the International Security Expo in West London, said the counter-terrorism...
Jacques.
I don't want to say any of this. So officers
Don't worry, it's a French word. I don't blame you.
explored Davidson's motivation and found that it was not driven by incel ideology. He would not comment on the specific motivation, but is understood that officers are focusing on Davidson's relationship with his mother, Maxine. And he goes on to argue that incelism isn't really an ideology.
Incel, in and of itself, is not a terrorist ideology. You become a terrorist when you cross a threshold in terms of your actions, and it's about what you do or intend to do to further that cause. The attack in Plymouth wasn't driven by an ideology, albeit that individual was engaged in some kind of incel thinking, but that doesn't make him a terrorist. Right, okay.
But what's the political
That's
motivation?
remarkably nuanced.
Yeah, well, this is a guy who works with terrorism 24/7. There was also an interesting bit in here. Some guy, Jonathan Hall QC, an independent reviewer of counter-terrorism legislation, said in July that a staggeringly high number of autistic people were being referred to prevent the government's counter-extremism program.
They're all on 4chan.
Yeah, that's, whatever. Anyways, just some context there I found of interest. But we'll move on. So we'll go back to day 3, as I mentioned, and let's play the next clip, which is of Lisa Nandy being a flag shagger, as the left would say.
Proud to fly the pride flag over our embassies in countries where loving who you love is a crime. We will build an agenda for Britain that matches the ambition of the people in it, big and generous, not small and petty, measured not in the number of our flags, but in the health of our kids.
I found that amazing. Where it's like, yes, we're going to fly the pride flag over all the embassies because, tolerance and all that. But at the same time, we don't measure our success in flags. I was like, right, okay.
But even then, I hate the slogan, where loving who you love is a crime. It's like, well, pedophiles can use that as a defense of their particular predilections against this country.
But even taking
loving, but in and of itself, I hate that phrase. Like, love is love. It's like, okay, but a pedo would say that.
That's true.
And Britain would be a horrific oppressive state for preventing you from loving who you love.
If you run it through leftist logic. Yeah.
So is it the MAP pride flag that she's flying? Because it sounds like it.
But if we take her at a steelman position, she's just talking about the conservative pride flag, which she's probably not, but okay. So we'll take her at that. Even then, I just love the idea that flying the British flag is some kind of crime or is not representative of Britain, but flying the pride flag is, which I just found absurdist. She wants to be in charge of all foreign affairs, as you can tell. So you can look forward to that. But we also got an admission of guilt from the Labour Party, which is that Labour councils take 8 times the refugees that the Conservatives do. Let's play.
The Guardian report published on the 3rd of September highlights that Labour in local government have supported 8 times the level of refugees than Conservative councils.
Wonderful. Then we know who is guilty for the illegitimate refugees going AWOL.
Well, I posted something on Gab the other day about this because Lisa Nandy had, posted with her, refugees welcome sign. Oh, I'm so progressive. And then, a few months later, she was complaining that the refugees were harassing girls from the hotels.
At a local school in her constituency.
Yeah. And it's like, well, there we go. This is what you get when you vote Labour.
I mean, the memes write themselves.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway, but getting back to China, so the main thrust of this and the main interest for this day was we're going to debate AUKUS. So I don't really have an opinion on AUKUS, but we're going to talk about
anything to start countering the influence of China is a good thing. How about that?
So we get this BBC article up. You can see AUKUS, UK, US, and Australia launch pact to counter China.
Can't help but notice that Canada and New Zealand, absent from this, really makes me think.
Very disappointing, the club guys. So it will let Australia build nuclear-powered submarines for the first time using technology provided by the United States. The AUKUS Pact, which will also cover AI and other technologies, is one of the country's biggest defense partnerships in decades, analysts say. China has condemned the agreement as, quote, extremely irresponsible.
I bet that's exactly the words that Labour used as well, isn't it?
It was. Foreign Minister spokesman Zhao Liyan said it seriously undermines regional peace and stability and intensifies the arms race.
Well, if you're already engaged in an arms race, you don't want your opponents engaging in the arms race as well.
Yeah. China's embassy in Washington accused the countries of a Cold War mentality and ideological prejudice. Yes.
Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of a genocide you're currently engaging in. What?
So, but also just Chad, yes, you have ideological prejudice against communism. Yep. Yep, you got me. You got us right on the money there. Get
That's
lost,
correct.
commie. Yeah. But anyway, you have the quotes there. So the fact that it's extremely irresponsible, it is doing an arms race, all the rest of it. That are the direct quotes from the Chinese propaganda machine, and you can keep that in mind for later. But anyway, they also end this with, the pact also created a row with France, Chad, which has now lost a deal with Australia to build 12 diesel
I
submarines.
tell you what, France, maybe I would have been more sympathetic if you'd done something to stop the migrant crisis of them sailing across the English Channel when you know they're not allowed.
We do not give a toss about the French feelings.
It's really
on
a
this.
stab in the back, say the people currently stabbing us in the back. Oh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
But I don't have a huge opinion on the geopolitics of all this because I just don't know enough. But one of the things I found interesting is the level of debate in Britain is mostly just down to it pissed off the French, based. So if we go to the next one, we have Nigel
Well, they've been
Farage
pissing us off.
making this point. No further comment required. Beget submarine, not good enough. Get some nuclear submarines, you scrubs. Anyway, so we'll get back to the Labour conference. So I mentioned the Chinese line, the official Chinese line, that this is extremely irresponsible and is starting an arms race. What was the Labour Party's view on this? So let's play the first one in which they decide that Australia is a rogue state.
On the 15th of September, a tripartite military agreement was signed between the US, the UK and Australia, referred to as AUKUS. The AUKUS agreement will see the US and the UK supplying 8 nuclear-powered military submarines to the Australian Navy, enabling it to operate undetected underwater for longer. The agreement includes artificial intelligence, cyber warfare, and both underwater and long-range strike capabilities. It will give Australia weapons-grade uranium, the building blocks for a nuclear bomb. Of course, Australia has said it has no intention of building a bomb, but in the future, how can we possibly know? Boris Johnson says the AUKUS deal will promote stability in the Indo-Pacific region, but, conference, it's very much in danger of doing quite the opposite. China has condemned the agreement as extremely irresponsible. Does that sound like something that's going to promote stability?
God, not that China have said it. Oh, now I believe.
Well, I mean, if the CCP said it, take it as word of God for the Labour Party.
I can't believe she actually said that. It was just like, well, China have called it irresponsible, so we shouldn't do it.
But I mean,
Right.
I love the way
Okay.
she's treating Australia like it's Iran.
I know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, maybe we should.
I'm
that's a different
touched.
discussion.
I'm deeply touched by her concern for the Australian people being tyrannized by the
Yeah.
COVID police.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to nuke them.
No,
So,
but the thing is, she must have. Well, so I'm not going to assume too much. But okay, so it just strikes me that if Australia had nuclear capacity, then China would be less inclined to invade it.
also, we're talking about the sea. My understanding is the nuclear submarines are nuclear powered. They don't have nukes on them.
Sure, but
So
like if Australia were to develop a nuclear
it
bomb,
would be extremely expensive and very difficult anyway.
yes,
So,
but it would still disincline China to invade, and China must be looking, going, well, it's not very far.
yeah. I also love the idea that
I wouldn't want to be stuck next to China.
I can't remember if it gets mentioned in these clips, but there was someone who was like, I can't believe we're sending uranium to Australia. It's like shipping coal to Newcastle.
Yeah, they're the primary producers worldwide of uranium.
Anyway, but yeah, Australia, rogue states, can't be trusted. Why? China said so, which is an interesting argument. But not as interesting as the next one, which is a speaker who decided that the whole thing, the entire alliance in and of itself, is a vermin Tory deal. Let's go for this one.
Workers in Australia are asking for our solidarity, and we've just heard from Lisa about the importance and the power of showing solidarity. Seafarers in the MUA section of the CFM-MEU, the Australian Union, have called for international opposition to the reckless AUKUS announcement. Seafarers have already been stranded on coal ships. Their trades have been shut down as China reacts aggressively to this dangerous announcement, and France very unhappily. AUKUS breaks international law, it increases global tension, it risks starting a nuclear arms race, and we should be very clear about that. And we know as a Labour movement that real security only comes from cooperation. It doesn't come from this dreadful deal that the vermin Tories have put on us, this AUKUS. Labour must lead by building opposition. We must lead on this. So please support this emergency resolution. Workers have no interest in war with China or any country. We must stand in solidarity with workers in all countries. We must oppose war and wasteful, environmentally harmful military spending.
Who talks like that? Like, workers of the world unite, literally, is our
Oh, a
argument here.
middle-class woman talks like that.
Yeah, the workers of China, we stand with them.
But
Solidarity.
oh, well, we don't want war. Well, no, neither do we. But then the Chinese government don't really seem to be concerned about the value of human life. So don't know what to tell you.
What happened to your anti-imperialism, comrade?
Yeah.
Yeah, vanished up. Anyway, so that's the side of the debate which gave the argument that the vermin Tories have set up this deal, and very polite.
Not vermin Chinese Communist Party, vermin Conservatives.
Yes, I love how the Conservatives were shot. They called us scum. Yeah, no S. You got to listen to them for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They think of you as rats. Anyway, so there's that's that side of the debate, and of course this is a debate to be had, and then they vote on what to do. And the other side of the debate got a mention, and there was this chap who came up and gave the argument for AUKUS because the Chinese are a bunch of genocidal maniacs.
That's a good argument, I would say.
He did not get the clap he deserved. Let's play the next clip.
Our allies standing with us is a way that we can fight back against China, and we can push back against their policies across the region, across the world, and not least of all in exterminating the Uyghur people.
Thank you very much, Delegate. And now I'm afraid that...
I mean, you can hear
Very tepid.
all of 10 people in there
Yeah.
who were just like, yeah, maybe genocide is bad.
You're in the wrong party, mate.
You should have said trans rights, mate. You would have got a much, much, much bigger clap. I also love the idea that he's up there and he's like, oh, you claim to be Labour and yet you are concerned with genocide. Curious. They do not give a toss about that issue. They are standing with the workers of China, after all. The workers of China who are currently moving into Xinjiang, let's say. Anyway, so the last thing, well, one of the next things to mention, there are plenty of things to mention, is the anti-white racism, which I've mentioned previously, of white people need not talk at this if we can help it, because it doesn't reflect the diversity of our party.
I mean, given the standard of the white people in the room, I'm starting to agree. None of them should talk.
I mean, I mentioned it before we started, but there's like the occasional guy who's in his 60s who's complaining about the pensions that he's been screwed over because he worked down the mines back in the day. And these people who look like relics.
Did you transition?
Yeah, that's literally how they're treated. Yes, but you are white. I worked in the mines for 40 years. Yeah, you're still privileged.
He's straight as well.
Anyway, so let's move on to the next one, which is the anti-white racism did continue. And let's demonstrate that.
3 more speakers from this side of the hall. And could I highlight, I want the speakers to reflect the diversity of our great party. So any individuals from Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities. I will now take some speakers from the floor. So if you'd like to put your hand up, again, take into consideration the diversity of our great party. And I'm going to start from this side. And I have been really, really careful in trying to get the diversity of our delegates and different age groups and everything else.
Cultist. I mean, honestly, just the great party as well.
Just say we want the Browns.
Yes.
We want the Browns.
Well,
no
she did
whites.
say at one point, BAMES, because that's also very human. Yeah. Not using Yucca. Very disappointing. Not very progressive.
Not very.
Yeah, so then that moved on, and then they had a debate about proportional representation and the fact that this will allow the far right to get into power. But they're not concerned about that, because don't you worry, we already have a far right government. Let's play.
Comrades, proportional representation can help solve this problem. It will give us fairer, more representative electoral results. It is the pinnacle of liberal democracy to have all opinions heard, which PR will guarantee. Some may argue that it will lead to the rise of the far right. But comrades, who is in charge now? The most right-wing government in decades. That's what. I look to our comrades in Europe. Comrades.
Many people argue that PR will bring in smaller parties and extreme right-wing parties like Farage's type. They would only be replacing extreme right-wing Tories already in government.
How is that an argument in favour of proportional representation, though? Because if you're like, yeah, so the Tories are the furthest right party in decades, which they're not. But it's like, yeah, so it's okay if we have even further right than that. So when they've got a slew of BNP MPs, they're going to be like, yeah, well, it's basically the same, isn't it?
They're just like, yeah, that's the same thing. But I mean, I added in the comrades there to make the point that when you're that far left, everything looks far right to you, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Having these people give their opinion on what's a far right are.
But I mean, just because I don't particularly want BNP MPs. Like these people seem to not care about that at all.
Basically, Kemi Badenoch. That's what's going on there. Actually, no, even worse. I mean, it's basically, I don't know.
I got denounced by Nick Griffin for being a civnat.
Yeah.
And I got denounced by Jeremy Corbyn for being not crazy.
Yeah. Been
So-
denounced by Boris yet?
Not yet.
Well, that's
He's our guy. No?
basically the same thing according to these extremists, and that's an accurate description.
Mad.
Anyway, there's also some lady who then went on to talk about equality, and there's that thing in my mind. We were in the ride on the way back from the live event, and it came up with the phrase "the crevices of intersectionality."
Yes.
This woman gave her speech like, "I am the first black woman on the council in Norwich City in the cabinet." And it's like, how many more like little digs do we have to get to?
Yeah.
There's a better one tomorrow, so I'll save it. But anyway, this woman is talking about equality, and we want equality by any means necessary. Let's go.
And we must build equality into the system. And I don't care how we do it. I don't care if we have quotas or targets or shortlists. But we have to make sure that those devolved authorities are representative of our communities.
So fascism.
We will do anything possible to get diversity. Good to keep in mind. Anyway, last thing here.
And this is why China did nothing wrong.
Yeah, last thing in here, which is really funny, and I this is a point of just like the clocks don't tick in that place. And it's this guy who's just like, yeah, the SNP, they're very progressive, but it's not real progressivism, unlike what we're going to do, because they screwed up Scotland, unlike us, who would be proper progressives. Let's play this clip.
Growing up in London, I would see people speaking about the SNP, especially in 2014. People would say, oh, look at the SNP, look how progressive they are, look how left-wing they are, let's be like the SNP. But I don't want to be part of a legacy of a party that has so increased the amount of drugs deaths in Scotland, longest cancer waiting times in the UK, the widening educational attainment gap. That's not part of a country that I want to be in. And I really think...
I love it. Not real progressivism.
But I mean, like, I agree with him. I wouldn't want the consequences of SNP rule either.
No.
But how are they going to differ from Labour rule?
I love it though, but he lays it out. It's like, yeah, the SNP are very progressive, and we should, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
So we're going to be Labour and progressive, and
that won't be terrible. ...
Just question mark profit.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The level of thinking. Anyway, so there's the full version of day 3, abridged. If you'd like to go and enjoy that, I'm currently doing day 4, and it's even worse. I've got, like I mentioned,
I'm loving this coverage.
I've got 20 minutes of just clips of day 4 of them talking about their trans comrades, and
love it. I can't wait to watch it.
Off myself. Anyway, please enjoy. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can catch the full podcast at 1 p.m. every weekday UK time at lotuseaters.com. You can also sign up at lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, that's how we keep this whole operation running. And recently we've put up loads of great stuff, such as this interview with legendary comedian Steve Hughes, one of my personal favourite comedians, so it was a real honour to be able to meet him. But one thing that I didn't expect, that he would be such a deep thinker. And this podcast is genuinely like a meeting of minds in a way. He was right on my wavelength on a bunch of things and helped me actually connect a bunch of dots, but I'm not going to carry on and spoil it. We also, of course, have lots of interesting articles that have been written, such as this one by Josh about the dumbest country on earth. And for premium, for silver tier subscribers, we also include a link, so it's we have an audio reading of it from a chap called Jonathan, who has a very smooth voice that you will enjoy. And this is great because often I don't have time to read all of the articles we put up, because we've put up a lot of regular content, and so this saves me the hassle of having to read it myself. So I really actually am very appreciative of this feature on a personal level. But we also do the Contemplations and Epochs, which are just interesting podcasts about interesting things. These are regular weekly podcasts. So this one is one of our writers, Josh, he's got a master's degree in psychology, talking about theories of intelligence and how they matter. And of course, we've got the Epochs, where myself and Bo, or in this case it was Josh and Bo, talking about the life of Sir Francis Drake. So that's 2 solid hours talking about England's most notorious adventurer. But we've also got lots and lots of other ones. This is number 21, so there's a good back catalogue there. And finally, we have our book clubs, and this is the part that I'm most proud of. Recently, we've done Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell, and
Reflections on a Ravaged Century by Robert Conquest.
Yeah, Robert Conquest is fantastic. Just if you want Western chauvinist historian, he's your man.
Anti-socialism.
Yes, in all forms, it's fantastic. And like I said, that's what keeps the podcast running. So if you want to become a member, thank you very much, and we think there's some great stuff you'll enjoy.